escape those limitations that people have placed upon you, right? For God is the one that put you here, and He knows what it is that He wants to achieve with you. Do not fast so that people can see you and walk around with dry lips and walk around in a weary manner and with your head down and all these things just so that people can see you. Greetings and welcome back to the channel, guys. Welcome back. Now, growing in your spiritual journey is regarded as one of the most important, if not the most vital goal that every Christian should aim to reach on a daily basis. In this episode, we are going to dive deep into exploring and discovering the 3 fundamental lessons that can help you grow as you embark on this spiritual journey. Now, for you to find out more, stick around. Now, if you're listening to this message via the podcast, just keep in mind that you are now available on YouTube at Ashley Gerera, and you can be sure to follow us as well on that platform. Now, for lesson number 1, guys, it says that put God first. In your spiritual journey, put God first. And that is our lesson number 1. Now, if we take our Bibles and we go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the Bible then records that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, just think about that, guys. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So as you embark on this spiritual journey, in the beginning, put God first, right? Do not try and go around and try to do things on your own and try to say, you know what, I'm not going to include God on these things, but rather I'm going to do things on my own. No, guys, it is not going to work. In the beginning, God. Guys, whatever it is that you're going to do, remember, in the beginning, God. Don't try and put things together and say, you know what, I think I'm going to do it on my own. But remember, in the beginning, God. So, before you accept that job offer, remember, in the beginning, God, right? Before you even sign the papers or anything like that, just remember, guys, that in the beginning, God, for God is the one that knows the future. He knows whether that job is going to be viable for you and in the long run, whether it's going to be sustainable. So God knows everything. So why not consult God just before you accept that thing? Now, as well, before you begin that business, consult God. Remember, in the beginning, God, guys, God is the one that is going to give you the ideas. God is the one that is going to tell you that, you know what, if you apply this method and you apply that method, you are going to be profitable in the next 5 months, 6 months, 1 year, and you're going to be sustainable, right? It is only God who is able to tell you that because He is not limited by time. But if you begin this journey without God and you decide, you know what, I'm going to start this business without God, you're going to run out of ideas and end up being moved out of the market, right? So remember, before you even begin that business, remember, in the beginning, God. Now, before as well you begin that relationship, remember, in the beginning, God, right? Do not just start the relationship and not include God in it. For God is the one that knows whether that person is right for you. But if you begin without God, guys, it is going to be problems after problems after problems because you didn't include God in the beginning, right? So remember, guys, also before you accept that marriage proposal, go to God and ask God, is this the right person for me? Is this the right person that I should settle down with? Go back to God, ask Him, and God will reveal to you what it is that you should do. Now, as we've established, guys, in point number 1, we said put God in everything. For you to grow, remember, you have to put God first, right? In the beginning of everything that you're going to start in your life, remember, put God first. Don't try and say, you know what, I'm going to do this thing on my own. For there is someone with infinite wisdom, right? There is someone with infinite wisdom who can just say, you know what, he's not limited by time, space, or matter. But then He can still give you solutions and answers that will benefit you in the long run, right? So remember, in the beginning of everything that you do in your life, remember, in the beginning, God. Now, before we go any further, now if you're watching this message via YouTube, just keep in mind that you are now available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Overcast, as well as on Amazon music, and you can be sure to follow us on any of those 6 different channels. Now for lesson number 2. Lesson number 2 says that ask for wisdom and for the spirit of discernment, right? Now you need to ask God for wisdom so that you can know that which is good and bad. Without wisdom and the spirit of discernment, you're going to fall into so many traps because you're not going to know that this is good and this is bad, right? You're not going to have that knowledge and that wisdom and the spirit of discernment to understand and to discern between the two. Now, if we take our Bibles to James chapter 1 verse 5, in the Bible, it then tells us that if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask from the Father, for he will give generously to anyone who asks, right? And he will not withhold it from you. So if you lack wisdom, ask it from God. On this spiritual journey, you need to be able to discern that this is good and this is bad. Otherwise, you're not going to grow, guys. You are not going to grow if you don't have that capacity or that knowledge and wisdom to understand that this is good and this is bad. How are you going to know that, okay, I should actually be following this path and I should actually not be following this path, right? Or I should actually make these decisions or I should actually make those other decisions. How are you going to know if you don't have wisdom from God and the spirit of discernment? And this is where we come to the point, guys, that when you grow in your spiritual journey, ask for wisdom and ask for the spirit of discernment. And like it says in James chapter 1 verse 5, it says that God gives it to you liberally, guys. He's not going to withhold it from you and say, you know what, you don't deserve it and all of that. No, but when you ask it from God, the Bible clearly says that he is going to give it to you. Proverbs 24 verse 14 then says that know also that wisdom is sweet to the soul, and it can also give you hope for the future, and your future will not be cut off. This is why you should get wisdom, guys. It says that your future will not be cut off. Now just think about that, guys. It gives you hope for the future because you'll be taking the right decisions and knowing that God is going to fight for you, and being able to discern and knowing that, you know what, this is good and this is bad. This is the power of wisdom. So make sure that you ask it from the Lord. Now when it comes to the spirit of discernment, guys, we can now go to 1 John chapter 4 verse 1, right? And it tells us in 1 John chapter 4 verse 1, it tells us that believe not every spirit, brothers and sisters, right? And it says that test every spirit, so that because many have gone out there and false prophets have also gone out there, but test every spirit so that you may know that which is good and which is bad. But if you don't have the spirit of discernment, how are you going to be able to test every spirit? Because the Bible tells us in 1 John chapter 4 that test every spirit, brothers and sisters. Do not believe every spirit out there, for there is false prophets out there who are out there to deceive you. So you need the spirit of discernment in your spiritual growth so that you can be able to discern and know that this is good and this is bad. This is a false prophet and this is a prophet from God. This is what the Bible tells us in 1 John chapter 4 verse 4. So this is one of the reasons as well why you need the spirit of discernment. And you don't get this, guys, by doing funny things and climbing up mountains and doing all those things, guys, but you get it by just asking from God, and God is going to be the one that opens your eyes. God is going to be the one that will make you to be able to discern that which is good and that which is bad. Now, as we close up this point, we can then take our Bibles to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 14, whereby it says that, but the natural man receives not things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, right? For this also goes further to say, for these things, they are spiritually discerned, right? So for you to know the things of God, for you to know the things of the Spirit of God, it says that these things are spiritually discerned, guys. So when you go to God, you must ask him as well for the spirit of discernment, for you to be able to discern the things of God and to know the things of God, and not just be like the natural person, right, who looks at these things and these things are foolishness to him, right? So just to take that point in mind, guys, and as you go on about your life, remember, look at these things, guys, and ask it from God. And God, it says in James chapter 1 verse 5, whoever it is that asks, God will give you generously so, just by you asking from God, right? So do not withhold your prayers and say, I think this is beyond me. But no, if you want to grow on your spiritual journey, ask for wisdom in the spirit of discernment so that you can know that this is good and this is wrong. Now, our last point, as you come to the conclusion of the whole matter that we've been talking about growing in your spiritual journey, right? Our last point says that fasting, guys, you need to fast, right? That is the last point that we have. Point number three says that you need to fast. Now, if we look at Judges chapter 20 verse 26, right? Now the children of Israel needed direction and to ask God, you know what are we going to do? Should we keep on going to war? Should we keep on doing this? So they decided, you know what, we are going to fast, right? And then the Lord heard their prayer because they fasted, and it says that they ate nothing nor drank anything until the evening. And it says that, and then the Lord came. So when you fast, this gives you direction in life. God then comes to your help, and God is the one that is able to direct your paths, right? God is then the one that is able to tell you, take this path, don't take this path, go this way, don't go this way. It is God who is going to direct your path. So fasting is very important when you embark on this spiritual journey, for it allows God to direct you on everything that you are going to be embarking on, right? On every journey, every step you are going to be taking, God is going to be the one that is going to direct your paths. Now, for the last verse, guys, we can then go to Matthew chapter 6, verse 16 to 18, which then talks about things that you shouldn't do when you are fasting, right? You know, some people, when they are fasting, they then come to a point where they say, you know what, I'm going to fast so that people can see me, and they move around with dry lips, and they move around, you don't put lotion, and you don't put all this kind of things. But if you go to the Bible in Matthew chapter 6, verse 16 to 18, it tells us that when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites who, when they fast, they show it to everyone to be seen by others that actually these people, they are fasting, right? Bible tells us that do not do that. Do not be like the hypocrites, for if you do that so that men can see you, it says that you will surely receive your reward. But if you go further, right, and you read verse 17 then tells us that, but when you fast, right, it goes further to tell us that when you fast, wash your head, put oil on your head, right, and wash your face. Do not let it be seen unto other people, right? For what you do in secret, and this is verse 18, what you do in secret, the Bible then tells us that what you do in secret, do it in that way, for your Father in heaven is the one that sees what is done in secret, and he will reward you. So as you embark on this spiritual journey, do not fast to be seen by other people. Do not post it on social media and tell people, I am fasting because of this, so that men can see that you have enjoyed such a fast. No, guys, do not do that. But the Bible tells us that do not do things to be seen by men, but rather do it in secret, and your Father who sees that which is done in secret, he is the one that is going to see, and he is the one that is going to reward you, guys. So that is the end of the 3 points that we talked about in your spiritual journey as you embark on this spiritual journey. And these 3 points are the ones that are going to help you grow on a daily basis. Now, if you're new to the channel, or perhaps a returning viewer, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss when a new video pops up, right? Now, in conclusion, guys, as we end our message for today, in conclusion, now we're just going to wrap up everything. Point number 1, we said put God first. In the beginning of everything that you are going to do on this journey, put God first, right? Put God first in everything. Before any decision, consult God. Before that relationship, consult God. Before that job, consult God. Before that business, consult God. In everything that you do, in the beginning of everything that you are going to be doing, consult God. Do not just do things haphazardly, right? Do not just do things and say, I'm going to see it for myself. But remember, consult God. Point number 2 says that ask for wisdom and ask for the spirit of discernment. For many false prophets have gone out there and they are deceiving people. But if you have the spirit of discernment and you have wisdom from God, for it says that God will give you generously so, liberally so. God will give you if you just ask from him. Go on your knees, ask it from God, and ask God, you know what, I need the spirit of wisdom, I need discernment, I need that, so that I can be able to discern that which is good and bad. And it says in the Bible, God will generously give you so to a person that asks. And in point number 3, we say that fasting is very important, guys. Fasting, when you fast, God will give you direction. God will give you direction of where you must go in life. God will tell you that take this path and don't take this path. Take this road, don't take this road. And God is the one that is going to direct your path. But if you fast, right? So make sure that in whatever it is that you do, remember to fast and pray unto the Lord. And remember as well, guys, when you do this thing, do not do it so that people can see you. Do not fast so that people can see you and walk around with dry lips and walk around in a weary manner and with your head down and all these things just so that people can see you. No, guys, don't do that, but rather do it in secret, for your Father in heaven, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you openly. And that is the end of our message for today. May God bless you as you continue on this spiritual journey. Remember, hold on, right? Remember, just keep going and ask these things from God, and He will strengthen you along the way. May God add a blessing